I got into commercial real estate. I mean, I think like a lot of people, like was flipping houses. I was flipping houses in the 90s. You just recognize, there's the difference between, having a job, I mean, and being wealthy, I guess. And I grew up very poor. I joined the Navy out of high school. I was an electrician on a submarine, and we used to joke around. What you do for a living scares me, to be honest, because I've had a couple of multifam, and I just got my teeth kicked in. I love taking a crappy old building, fixing it up, turning it into something that's viable, that revitalizes a part of town.
If you could have dinner with any U.S. president, dead or alive, who would it be, and why would you want to have dinner with that person?
Without a doubt, James Madison.
All right. Well, it's great to meet with you finally, Joe. This is Joe Squires. He's the owner of Admiral Properties and has had a lot of success in commercial real estate over time. So thanks for sitting down. You've got a great story, I think, that people are going to want to hear. And so, excited for you to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for the invite, Nick. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. So before we get into the real estate stuff, which, everyone is obviously here for, I'd like to learn, or maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of your just background in your journey and how you got into real estate, because you've got a great story. So maybe you could just give the audience a little bit idea of just your kind of trajectory and some of the background for you.
Yeah. I mean, you and I belong to a mentorship group, entrepreneurs organization, EO.
Yeah.
And part of what I adore about that is, being able to ask people, ask your peers something, and you get really good uncensored advice, input. I got into commercial real estate. I mean, I think like a lot of people, like was flipping houses. I was flipping houses in the 90s. I'm an electrician by trade. So, I mean, I have a, unique skill, and I'm also I don't shy away from, doing the other things, tiling and painting and plumbing and, et cetera, cutting in windows. I mean, so just early on, I would, just buy a house when I had money saved up back in the early 90s when it was easy.
Yeah.
And, remodel it, flip it. And that's kind of how I got into it, the houses, and moved on to commercial real estate.
Yeah. Okay. So electrician by trade. So when you were flipping these houses originally, sounds like you were doing a lot of the work yourself, even tiling. I mean, there's various disciplines across flipping houses. And so you were doing the whole thing.
I was the best at it. I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Home Depot special, you could walk down the aisle at Home Depot and you'd see a lot of those mirrored in the houses. But yeah, they're pretty interesting.
What made you decide to get into that? Because obviously jumping from being an electrician, right, where you're doing work on properties, is a different risk profile. Because right, when you're an electrician, you're getting paid for service jobs and installs, whatever it happens to be. But flipping a house, you're putting your own money there. You're risking and not going well. Like what kind of prompted that interest in the first place?
I don't know. Just early on, you just recognize, there's the difference between, having a job, I mean, and being wealthy, I guess. And I grew up very poor. I mean, food stamps, government cheese, you name it. And I early on recognized, the key to the success is hard work and just digging in there. So, I mean, I never shied away from that. Early on, I was doing these wiring jobs for a guy named Dan Jones, and he was doing infill houses. That's where you buy a house with a large lot, you segregate off one of the lots, you sell the house, you build on the lot.
Yeah.
He was doing these lot segs and infill, and that's before it was a verb.
Sure.
This is the early 90s when it became very popular. And I just remember visiting one with him, and I'm like, I'd like to learn more about this. And he was like, take a week off from work and come shadow me. I'm like, I can't afford to do that. And I remember it. He was like, that's the problem. Most people are too busy working, and they don't have enough time to learn something that could make them wealthy. And I thought about that. And the next day I called him like, I'm in. I'm going to put in some time off from work, and I'll shadow you. He's like, great, meet me at my house Monday morning, 7 a.m.
All right.
I lived out in Battleground, so it was quite a drive.
Bit of a hike. Yeah.
Yeah. And he every Monday morning, he had what he called Eager Beaver Realtor Day. He's like 80% of the listings happen on the weekend. And he's like, so if they put the listing in over the weekend, which is Eager Beaver Realtor, it hits RMLS on Monday. So he's like, he literally scoured the RMLS, and he had filters looking for large lot, etc. And so he printed off like 70, and he's like, look through those. He told me what he was looking for. I'll never forget it. He was eating a bowl of Cheerios or of Fruit Loops, and he answered the door in a robe that was loosely tied and underwear. And I was kind of like,
Really, I know, I know training is this.
I should have let somebody know where I was going to be in case I turned up missing. So a little later, he's talking, he's eating this bowl of Fruit Loops. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that was a good one. And he, like a red Fruit Loop fell out of his mouth and landed on his underwear. And I'll never forget it. I was kind of like, okay, and he flicked it off, and there's this red stain on his underwear. It's just one of those things that's kind of burned in your memory.
Yeah, this is your like.
We filtered down about 20 houses. We jump in his car. We jump in my car. I park at Mall 205, and we spent the whole day driving around looking houses. And literally, he found one he liked, and he called up his brokerage office. He's like, make an offer on this one. I mean, I think he bought 3 houses.
What?
On Monday.
Not messing around?
Not messing around. And then Thursday, he's like, this one looks good. What do you think? I'm like, yeah, it looks good. And he's like, make an offer. I'm like, really? Make an offer? He's like, that's why you're here. Make an offer. And I made an offer. That was the first house that I did an infill on. So that kind of got me into, I was flipping houses at the time. That got me into the construction side of it.
Yeah.
So different thing. He recommended some contractors, and I flipped the house, segregated, had to use his brokerage firm. And that was my first infill.
Cool.
It was pretty cool.
Well, it is neat. Yeah. And there's, dealing with the cities involved with that, and, all the kind of adjustments. And
so I've seen permit fees go from, 18,000 back in the, late 90s to 100,000 now.
Yeah. I mean, it's
SDC fees creep and water parks, etc. So,
yeah, it's wild. And, they're hopefully course correcting on some of that, but that's been pretty crazy. Well, so one of the questions I have, your property, your company's named Admiral Properties, or right, Admiral Properties LLC, right? So I've got to ask, were you an admiral?
No, not far from it. I was in the Navy. I joined the Navy out of high school. I was an electrician on a submarine, and we used to joke around. The top ranked enlisted person on the sub is called top. So you don't say Master Chief or Senior Chief. You say, hey, top. I have to replace that rising stem gave out. And so we used to just joke around about some people's rank.
Yeah.
Just as you're sitting around hanging out. And
Sure.
So one guy started calling himself LT, which is lieutenant, and another just as a joke. Sure. And so I started calling myself the Fleet Admiral, which is the highest rank. During time of war, it's a 5-star admiral. And so Admiral Properties, as my logo is 5-star.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the Admiral. That's the Admiral insignia. And my first email address was FAOTW, which is Fleet Admiral of the World. So yeah, Admiral is just a nod to the past. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
great name. Love the story. So it sounds like your first, kind of opportunity to invest in real estate was flipping properties. How did you find that property? How did you fund that? Because you mentioned that early on didn't have a lot of money. Like, how did that all happen?
Well, I had a full-time job. I was an electrician. I was making pretty good money. Every time I deposited my check, I would take 10% of my check and just sweep it over to a savings account. Things were different in the 90s before that real estate crash. They literally, there were, you look back on it now, I haven't thought about it in years, but you look back on it now and how ridiculous it was. It was like, what is it, the 80-10-10s? You finance, the bank finances 80% of it, you get a second loan for another 10. And you can come in with it at minimum 10% down, or there were even ways around that where you could get a third mortgage for the other 10. So you're coming in with closing fees. So you're buying a, $80,000 to $100,000 house. Real estate was cheaper then. $80,000 to $100,000 house, maybe $5,000.
Yeah. Okay.
It didn't take long. So I was buying a house every 6 months. instead of flipping them. I mean, so when people say it's more expensive now, the houses are more expensive and the financing is a little tighter. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I save money, buy a house, work on it on weekends and after work. I mean, I was working 6 10s as an electrician out at Ento. So it wasn't uncommon for me to, 6 in the morning till 4:30. I'd grab Burger King on my way, and just show up at the house and work till 10 o'clock at night, go home, take a shower, get up the next morning and rinse, repeat. So it was hard.
It was maybe before you had a family. Tears pulling those kind of hours. Yeah.
No way. My wife's like that now. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that was it. That's the financing part of it. And then it's a snowball, as you know. I mean, I didn't really spend a lot of money on things. So, I mean, you just kind of use that for the next one or the next one or the next one. And I started my electric company in 1998. I quit my job in 2002, but somewhere in there I knew I wanted a commercial building as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about that kind of pivot to commercial. A lot of people are very intimidated by commercial. They're willing to do houses, flexes, maybe even multifamily. But commercial is a different ballgame because you've got longer vacancy periods. They're more expensive assets. You've also got, just cost of repair on commercial assets is more expensive, the going rates for contractors. So, how did you get comfortable with that? Like what made you leap from, conventional residential to commercial?
Boy, what you do for a living scares me, to be honest, because I've had a couple of multifam and I just got my teeth kicked in. I mean, it was to the point where, just complaining about everything. I mean, the tenant laws in Portland here they're very aggressive. And probably 8-10 years ago is when they shifted, when you had your Chloe Utiles and Joanne Hardesty's in, and suddenly rent caps, et cetera.
Yeah.
And the management company I was using, I remember getting a letter somebody threw a couch out in the sidewalk and we had to pay or get rid of it. So we back charged them and they sent us a letter saying, well, there was a rodent infestation. That's why we did it. So not only do we want you to pay for our couch, but no. So we hired an exterminator who came in. He's like, there's no rodents. So we back charge up and then we get a letter from an attorney and our property manager, Kerr Property, Sean Kerr.
And I was like, gosh,
this is a form letter. He's like, there's literally, you can pay $20 to go on a website, enter your problem, and they'll spit out a very legal form letter. Yeah. And he's like, we're seeing them. And so we had to offer them a discount. And I had decided then and there, I'm like, I'm kind of moving out of it. I mean, it's a landmine, commercial is much more business. You don't pay rents due on the 1st, late on the 5th. If by the 15th you start accruing penalties, it's not a habitability thing. So, I mean, and if you're 45 days behind, I can come padlock your space.
Yeah, you're done.
Don't live there. Whereas, what an FE do, what it takes to evict someone.
Yeah. The human element in residential is
and where you live
viewed very differently.
So, I mean, I tip my hat to you doing what you do, to be honest, because our text exchange, I mean, there's stories and there's photos and stuff. And I'm like, holy moly, I would have a hard time keeping my composure. So in 20 years of owning commercial property, I've only had to evict one person. I've only had to chain one spot.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. So that's great. Right. So what was the first commercial property that you purchased? How did that work? What prompted that? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was in late 2003. It was over on 60th and Oregon Street. I was running my electric company out of my garage. So bedroom was an office, the laptop there, one laptop. So I'm out in the field working. My sister was my office manager. I couldn't come back home to the office because we only had one computer.
Yeah.
Gang boxes and all kinds of conduit stuff in the garage. My poor wife, because electricians were showing up at 6:30 to grab parts, and there's a couple times she did the walk of shame. Had to work and hey, good morning, Stacy.
Yeah, like oh yeah.
So I mean, I knew the next step was getting a commercial property, and so I just found a cheap one, and I think it was $250,000. My friends called it the apartment because the guy who built apartments, but he did this one as offices.
Oh, okay.
So 2 levels, garage and stuff, and bought it. Worked weekends, replaced windows, redid the wiring, That was my first dip of the toe into a commercial. And man, a lot of mistakes, a lot of fun.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you've got the commercial background. A lot of people, when they get into real estate investing, the big learning curve for them is really learning about maintenance and repair and what needs to be done, vocabulary and cost and things like that. How do you think being an electrician has made you a better investor?
I'd almost flip that around too. Because when I'm walking like capital projects with property managers or, with managers, not even CapEx projects, when I'm just walking large projects, I speak the language of their P&L. I speak, it's like, this doesn't look good, on your NOI. It doesn't look pretty, but trust me, this avoids future pitfalls. I think the other way around, speaking their language is what's helpful. They recognize that I get it. Because for a long time, I shied away from being the electrician who owned commercial buildings because people tend to, as weird as it sounds, people tend to not want to do business with people who are successful.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paying way too much for electrical. Joe owns a building. So I really shied away from that for a long time. Even though it wasn't overpriced electrical, it was just, that's what I wanted to do with my money.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it varies on profession, right? You go into a law firm and you're like, wow, you guys have 4 floors and this thing looks sparkling. Same thing with banks.
Yeah.
Where people are like, oh, I actually feel better about this. Yeah. Some industries, you're kind of like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You're probably making too much money. So
if your real estate broker shows up wearing sweats, and an AC/DC t-shirt, you're like, okay, that's not very professional. So there's a fine line there too.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But, so I mean, speaking their language really helped. And a little later, it started just kind of drifting out. But, that I owned, real estate. And I found it was helpful. So the people understood that, I knew what they were after. I knew what the end game was. And groups like entrepreneurs, like EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, I mean, being able to pick the brain of people. Yeah, it's great. Not only a banker, finance person, builders, etc. I can remember very well a plane ride with Barry Raber, where he was talking about, the relationship between net operating income, your NOI, and your cap rate and the valuation, where he's like, really, if you think about every dollar in NOI that you can shave at a 6 cap is $17 in value. He's like,
yeah, that's wild.
Grinding away on that NOI should be your top priority, whether it's maintenance or, cutting costs, raising rent. And he went over the different levers you pulled to do that. And we were on our way to a forum retreat. And I remember, purposefully buying the seat next to him so I could have bend his ear for about 2 or 3 hours over it. And that relationship, that relationship between cap rate, NOI, and valuation is still what the math that I do in my head when I'm thinking about things.
Yeah. What are some of the things, when you mentioned obviously cap rates, you're looking at that. What are some of the things that you consider when you're evaluating a property and whether or not you want to purchase it?
We think of things differently. Like we bought because, we don't have investors. I mean, we have partners on a few buildings, but I can remember, 8, 9 years ago, we went to buy our office in Southeast Portland, and we sat down with Tim O'Brien, who does a lot of infill, and I remember him going, this is a great property. The zoning's going to change in the next decade. He's like, the problem is, I do most of my work with investors, who get a certain, rate of return. Sure. They don't like it when I sit on properties. I can't land bank. And he's like, you guys are at a really distinct advantage because you're going to buy this. You're going to move your electric company into it, rent out a couple spots, and you're going to sit on this for a decade and let the zoning sweep through you.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's a really cool model. And it was right around that. I'm like, that is a cool model.
Yeah. It's a unique opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't have an IRR. We have to hit. We don't have, financing. We have, et cetera. Or, there's a company in Vancouver, IDM, that I follow that model. A good friend of mine, Sean Rogers, works there. And IDM stands for Invest, Develop, and Manage. And that really started to define what we do. We purchase, we redevelop, we repair, and we self-manage. So I mean, that's it. We have a property manager who's part-time, who manages just our properties.
Yeah.
We have a full-time construction manager who does our TIs, our tenant improvements, and our repairs and stuff.
Yeah, so you're looking at long-term potential, right? That's kind of what you're trying to figure out how to do, because obviously at some point, the zoning's going to allow that building to be repurposed and maybe scraped and go vertical.
And as soon as Portland fixes their woes that we were talking about before the show, multifamily comes back. I mean, but so being able to pick Tim O'Brien's mind and get that thumbs up.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? 4 years ago, you sent me a pro forma for a multifamily you were working on.
Yeah.
I remember calling you like, this is the nicest pro forma I've ever seen in my life. Who did this? I mean, it was impressive. And you're like, I did. That's what I went to school for. I'm like, holy crap, man. I mean, it was impressive.
Yeah, kudos, yeah.
So I'm at a very good advantage. I can look at a property, and my wife and I can literally, while we're watching, a TV show, just open an Excel spreadsheet. We have a template, but open it and just back up napkin, throw numbers in, and we're like, that's close enough.
It gives you enough to at least make an offer, and then you can kind of drill down in your
this looks
inspection period.
Let's do it. We don't have to nail it. I mean, I looked at your pro forma, and there's a lot of stuff on there I don't understand because I don't have to.
Sure.
I'm not bringing in outside money. I'm not offering a rate of return, equity on the flip side after pref tree,
I said it was a different model.
I know all that. I speak the language, but I wouldn't, if you presented it in front of me, I wouldn't know whether that was a good deal or bad. Sure. I mean, that's kind of Stacy and I's model is, we buy something, we remodel it, we self-rent it, or like I used to just move, leapfrog and move my electric company around my poor employees after their fourth or fifth move. And then we rent it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a different model for me. It's, the deployment of cash, how long is that cash going to be tied up before we can remodel the building, get a tenant in, and get a cash flowing and refinance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Right. Well, when you're in the commercial space, some of the things that have really come, into play more and more has been cost segregation. Is that something you guys have been able to take advantage of? And maybe you can tell us maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, cost segregation for depreciation. I mean, again, there's a EO came into it because probably like 3-4 years ago. I mean, Jay Torgerson, our CPA, was talking about it, but then there was also a person who came in who talked about accelerated depreciation. And that's taking certain things, electrical, roof, mechanical, what is it? You probably know better than me.
Yeah, I mean, really any fixtures that you can depreciate.
Yeah, and just saying, electrical, for example, a 39-year depreciation on commercial property, but HVAC is 10 or 12-year depreciation.
Yeah.
So instead of taking all that depreciation over 39 years, you accelerate the depreciation for certain things that won't last as long. And probably 4 or 5 years was the first time we did accelerated depreciation on something. So I mean, all that depreciation on your K1 starts to add up to the point where now we literally can manage. We know what our depreciation is per year, and we know how much we could make to avoid certain taxes.
Sure.
Wink, wink. And
that's the game.
So yes, we've accelerated depreciation, something we've done, that we've used. And I would say, I mean, you probably run out of, you probably don't need to do it on every property,
Yeah. Depends on your
income. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. And that, speaking to investors and things like that, that can be a benefit for investors. Some people are looking for the tax shelter that provides being, an investor in the building.
But if you're going to flip the building in a decade and you've got all this, accumulated depreciation you have to pay back when you sell.
Sure.
Then there's a lot that plays into it.
Yeah.
I mean, we plan on holding a lot of our properties, forever. I mean, we have a trust. And our kids have a skip, I forget what they call it, a
generational skip. Yeah.
They're not allowed to sell the buildings unless there's an emergency. And it's
that's smart because, a lot of times when people have legacy planning or, they're passing down assets or businesses, within 3 generations, it's gone.
Totally.
And so
I have a photo of my grandmother sitting in front of her childhood house in San Francisco. And the way she told it, my great-grandfather, her dad was pretty wealthy. He was in commercial real estate in San Francisco. And then, and then in the 30s, things went south and, the Depression. And they ended up selling that. He passed away. We had a lung cancer. Anyways, if you think about it from a 30,000-foot level, every family should have property.
Sure.
You worked your whole life to pay off a house and own it. And then the problem is you pass away and your 3 kids sell it, remodel their kitchen, go to Disneyland or buy a boat.
Yeah.
And an entire lifetime of assets are poof. So our take on it is, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
The book, The Good Earth, Pearl S. Buck. I mean, we don't want it all to go away.
Sure.
So that's why we did the generational skip. I forget the phrase you used.
Yeah, no, I think that's really smart because I thought a lot about that. And you see it in other countries, especially in like Europe and things like that. Like, oh, this has been in our family for 5 generations. Or, I have some friends that, live back east and, one of them lives in Charleston. And, they have a beautiful home, that's 3 generations deep. And it's just, those are things that you can't replace, but it also provides a lot of stability, right? Because you're spending so much time trying to secure housing and, somebody just spent their lifetime acquiring and paying it off. And then you liquidate it for, like you said, boats, trips, things that you don't necessarily need. So I think that's
spot on. You are very spot on. And that's a weird thing. I mean, I used to work with a Vietnamese guy who was like, the tradition is the father of the bride buys the bride and groom a house when they get married, because he was complaining he had 3 daughters. And he was an electrician. He's like, Joey, I have some problems coming down to buying it, CC. And he's like, but I mean, he goes, you buy your daughter and her new groom a house, and then their job is to start setting what would be a house payment aside to earn interest, invest in whatever. And by the time they have kids, they buy a house. I mean, that's a generational wealth mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's smart.
Yeah, I know some people that bought, when they first had kids, they bought, I think like a duplex for each one of them. And by the time they were in college, that duplex funded their college.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's a great model. You mentioned, on a couple deals, like you don't have investors, but maybe a couple, you've got some partners on. How do you keep everything kind of simpatico with partners? Because, you got more cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Is that something that you have really thought about, or is that something you've kind of just gotten lucky and it's not been an issue? Tell us a little bit about that.
God, I love your show, Nick. Seriously, I love your show. You have some great questions. Sharp dressed, great questions.
Line it up.
We used to never have partners. It was like we don't want to muddy the waters.
Yeah, sure.
And then at some point, you just begin to trust people. I mean, you shouldn't climb into bed financially with someone that you don't have the same values on.
Yeah.
And it just, we owned a building with Janelle Isaacson, and it was literally, we were looking for a place in Vancouver. And I reached, boy, if any commercial brokers watch this, we were looking for something. So, I mean, what I began to notice is, I just reached out to the top 2 brokers. I'm interested in something. It's great. And we met. I'll send you something every week. Well, a month later, I stopped getting it. They stop. It's just spinning plays, it wobbles and falls. And so I just set up a grid. Here's where I want to own. And I just drive up and down the street. Then when I see a building I like, I pull over, I take photos, I email to myself with the address. You usually end up with about 20 buildings I like.
Yeah.
Go back. I start looking it up on GIS or Portrait Maps, who owns it, upload the photos. I just have folders.
Mm-hmm.
And I start dialing for dollars.
There you are.
Calling people up.
You're the broker now.
And you really have to be mentally prepared for that, because you get, if I'm calling 25 people to, hey, and I had an aw shuck story. I'm an electrical contractor. I'd love to open a branch in your, and your building's perfect. I'm not a developer. I'm not a monster. But Godzilla sweeping through Tokyo, clapping and hut him. Just a normal guy.
Yep.
And which really helped. But man, it'd be like 24 FUs and 1 maybe. And that's all.
Put on your armor before that happens. Yeah.
I'd turn the lights off. I'd close the door. And I'd just get ready to just be verbally assaulted. I called somebody once, a building on like 12th and Division, and literally the son answered and he's like, "We are in the hospital right now. My dad is dying. You are a monster." And I'm like, "That is really bad timing. I'm so sorry. Oh, hey, what's your email address? Can I call you?" No, I mean, it was.
That's you?
Oh, gosh, I felt so bad. Then it's put out for sale 6 months later. I was like, yeah, could have saved some brokerage fees. So, but where was it? So we were looking for a building. We found one, made an offer. The guy said yes, and then he went away. So we made another offer on another building, got it, moved to the electric company, and then a week later, this 80-year-old guy who owned the Lucky Loan building in downtown just signed the PSA and faxed it back to us.
No,
he didn't know how to scan an email, so he just faxed it, probably from an Office Depot or something.
good thing you kept your fax.
And I'm like, literally, we are in escrow. And I remember telling Stace, I'm like, this is legit. It's 7 months old, but it's legit. So what do you think? And she said, well, we don't really have the bandwidth. And we happened to have Janelle coming over for dinner that night.
Yeah.
And we're all just sitting in the back patio for having dinner and a glass of wine. And she's like, I'm trying to open a better branch of Living Room Realty in Vancouver. Like, funny you should ask. Interesting. We are in escrows. She looked at it, and Janelle's the kind of person we would, do a building with. There's some people that are hands off, some people that are very involved. I'm very involved. I'm the guy who's, construction's my big thing. The leasing is Stacy's thing. So I mean, help where you can. And Janelle was really helpful in the design. The little touches and the little aesthetics. I mean, and I'm not aesthetic. I'm the function over fashion. So I mean, to have somebody come in and like, we want to inlay the tile at the foyer with the year the building was built. And you're like, that's really cool. I never would have thought of that. It's character. And it's what people really dig when they walk in. So just making sure we own 3 buildings with partners. All 3 of them are more on the passive side. One person's a little more involved, and he's as involved as he wants to be.
Yeah,
if he's good. If he's like, I want to do this and this, sure, no problem. I mean, come on down. Yeah. So I mean, but all 3 of these people are what I would consider very good friends, and people, they understand what we're after. Like one building we bought right before the COVID. It was expected that we were going to flip it in a couple of years to somebody building apartments, and then this big pandemic came through. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I think I read about it somewhere. Yeah.
And probably on MSNBC. And so I mean, all of a sudden we switched to it looks like we're holding on to this thing for a little longer than we thought.
That's how it goes. I mean, we broke ground, I think in 2019, late 2019 on the apartment building, and then all that stuff went crazy, and yeah, we're still alive and the building's full. So that's great. But yeah, it's been a hike for some stuff. But
I remember when you were, when your construction loan was turning, I remember that. And I was like, oh boy, you know what? At some point you have to take a gamble.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you're going to be successful. You got to take a leap. And, the thing is like, I always try to put in the context of, if this goes south, no one legitimately actually dies, right? Like I'm not, a surgeon working on someone and it could go awry and they lose their leg. It's like, these are all about, at the end of the day, balance sheets.
Yeah.
And, people can recover from that kind of stuff. We were lucky that, the bank was reasonable and worked with us, and we got everything kind of back on track. But
it doesn't want to own that.
No, they don't want to own that. And we weren't the only person, in that situation with, a bridge loan. And so, it was one of those things where, they were like, okay, you guys are making the payments. So that's great. Number one. And we understand that this is not like a operational issue or a competency issue. It's just a market situation. And so, they looked at the bigger picture and we got that squared away. But it was, when you're signing loans like that, you've got some personal guarantees, and that taught me a lot about what that actually means and the risk and just the stress that comes with that. But, again, it's just, it's kind of part of the game. So
early on, it was like I came from nothing.
Yeah.
I'm okay, gambling, a little bit. Sure. I've always I can always just, work harder. Once I got married and started having kids, the gambles got less and less. And as the pot grows, you're deploying
now that preservation and
yeah. Somebody just famously said, I have enough money that I never have to work again, for the rest of my life. And I'll give my kids a couple bucks and say, why would I put any of that at risk where I lose when I have to never have to work and I have to go back to work? To me, which are good first world problems. I enjoy working. I enjoy the grind. I mean, there's also a holistic thing to it. I mean, I really love saying yes to contractors. I love taking a crappy old building, fixing it up, turning it into something that's viable, that revitalizes a part of town. What is it? A third of the economy is construction.
Yeah, no, so a huge driver. And
I love saying yes. Buying something, realtors make money, title companies, mortgage companies, the contractors, the electrician, everybody makes money. Fix something up and it revitalizes a neighborhood. So, I mean, as weird as it is, I could stop, but, I like being part of that economy. If you've got the ability to do something, do you owe it to the world, to society to do that?
Yeah. And I think everyone's got different perspectives on that, but I think about it, from the standpoint, like even just like owning a business, I've got, team members, employees, and I'm really focused on their growth and development. And it's actually incredibly satisfying to watch that potential get unlocked because, a lot of the times you see somebody and you see what they're capable of before they do. And then you watch that, become, come to fruition and it's gratifying for them and for you. So, I mean, there's a lot of different elements of that. And everyone's got kind of a different.
You do a great job of empowering your team too, and you've told me before, just letting them handle certain situations, stepping in, if it's a big decision or they're uncertain. But I mean, you do a good job of, a little bit of laissez-faire, with your employees.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's always a learning curve. Right? It's a slow process of, kind of putting in systems, getting people up to speed. But that's the ultimate goal there. We're going to take a quick break here for a second for a word from our sponsor, and then we'll serve right back. So our sponsor currently is Sleep Sound Property Man. So you'll find out soon enough. Vaccines. So we'll be right back. All right, cool. We're back from the break. Let's dive into some more material. This has been great so far. Really enjoyed the conversation. Obviously, when you're out there, you're talking about, dialing for dollars sometimes. What are some negotiation skills or tactics that you think you've learned or picked up along the way that maybe you'd be willing to share, one or two tidbits for people?
You just give me goosebumps, Dave. Seriously, I get asked this a lot, especially when it's owner financing, because, getting an owner carry from someone, they don't even need to own it free and clear. They could still have a bank note.
Yeah.
The last property we bought, they have a bank note. And, he's got to have a really good rate. I'd rather not disturb that. Boy, and I tried to explain to someone like, well, there's these levers, how much money down do you need? How long can you carry it? How long you want to carry it? What interest rate? Do you have a mortgage that you need me to hit?
Yes.
You're not coming out of pocket. If so, how much of that can I get applied towards principal? Maybe, price, interest. I mean, and it's such a
Rubik's cube of net and equity.
And I've tried to explain it to people. Like, man, you really have to, because like a project we got, the broker, it fail-sailed. Somebody had it for 2.5 years, fail-sailed, gave it back to him. So the broker, I came in second, the broker called me. He's like, it came back up. And I'm like, great. Is he still interested in owner carry? Yes. Okay, great. Tell him to meet me at the property because I want to face-to-face because this is bad. This isn't over email.
Yeah.
And the first question is like, what do you have in mind? I mean, and it is such a, it's not, you're not there to rip any off. It has to be.
No, you're trying to figure out how it works. Yeah.
What's your most important thing? He's like, well, there's like 11 of us that own this. Mom and dad owned it. Dad had an affair with the business partner's wife, so they owned 75, and it all matriculates down. So like we have a cousin in Spokane who owns 1%. He's like, I need, 700,000 down to pay off, 8 of the 10 minority partners.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot down. Can I get the interest rate down to 5%? Can you carry it for 3 years? Can I do, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going from there. Okay, that's a lot. Can the price come down a couple 100,000 because I need enough money to do the TIs as well? So, I mean, that's a face-to-face, but you just mentioned the Rubik cube. It's like price, down payments,
Term renewal and stuff. Yeah.
Even, how long can I am it? Can I am it for 25 or 30?
Sure.
Can I get some of this towards the principal? What's the interest rate? It's every
days.
Man, it is so complicated. I mean, it's really hard to explain it to someone unless you watch somebody do it or, it's fun. I'm pretty sure you'd be good at it. But yeah, and that's the fun part, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's creativity.
And I know people who do financing where it's like owner carry, get it, and then get it appraised to pull money out and move on to the next one. I'm like, well, that seems a little shell gamey,
Yeah.
This is just, although we just bought one, a commercial building downtown, and we put a significant amount down. The guy was underwater on it, so he's like, I want to carry it for 3 years so that my payments, the amount of money I have to come in at closing in 3 years isn't as big.
Yeah.
We're like, okay. Well, our CPA just told us the IRS considers that a purchase because you put so much down.
Oh, interesting.
But we didn't. We have a contract to purchase it. We're like, doesn't matter. You put enough down, you're not going to walk away from it. You own it. You are depreciating it.
No.
So that was a weird conversation. I was like, hey, my CPA says I have to depreciate this. You should probably talk to your CPA. And he's like, you didn't buy it? I'm like, I know I didn't buy it. So you did learn something.
You know what's interesting too about that, and I this is way outside of my area of expertise, but because the Supreme Court basically overturned the Chevron decision, which is about agencies making laws and rules essentially that were not written. Yeah, so it's a pretty significant change in the way that things are done, or have been done. And I'm wondering if the IRS kind of impression of that sort of thing is something that they simply willed into existence, or if it's, has some other form that's maybe more credible. Not that you're going to go litigate this issue, but there's a lot of stuff that has been passed down as agency gospel that is now changing. In fact, there was a case in Louisiana last week where, for the first time, we have a judge that basically said, hey, yes, this landlord can charge you pet fees or pet rent for your emotional support animal. And prior to that decision, prior to that decision, everyone kind of had followed what HUD had said, which is, hey, thou shalt not charge any, fees, rent or deposits on emotional support animals and so forth. But that's actually not written in the Fair Housing Act, but that's an agency decision. So this is a large tangent, but it made me think about that particular dynamic.
Could you charge damages for a support animal?
Yeah, so that was never in dispute, but it was more about, being able to, charge. Well, you would normally charge when somebody has a pet, right? And that's really kind of the big
talk about landmines for residential. I rented to a guy in a wheelchair once, and afterwards he beat the crap out of the house, just the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I went to charge him it, and I was told, what is your expectation of damage for a handicapped person in a wheelchair in their home? Because I think this meets what your expectation of damage should be. I'm like, no, this exceeds it.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to walk away and eat it because it's like, a person in a wheelchair will do more damage.
The normal wear and tear standards may be different. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah. Well,
that's why I don't do what you do.
That's why you stay away from, fair enough. Have you been obviously you've bought some stuff recently. Have you seen any or dealt with any challenges in the finance market with having to like refinance or purchase? What has your kind of experience been in recent years?
Yeah, good question. We have two banks that we use. Commerce Bank is our primary bank. I'd say 75% of our buildings are with it. And even this one that I have to balloon out is coming up in about 6 months. And, and I'm ping them. It's like, what do you need, to be able to refinance, et cetera. Having a good relationship with the bank is pretty key. back in the recession, I was banking with Wells Fargo, and they pulled my line of credit, demanded the money, started pulling money out of my bank to the point where I had to just move.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get out of there. I mean, I haven't had a financing issue in probably, I mean, I hate to say it. I have such a good relationship with my bank.
I mean, that's excellent. That's what
I
I
will
want.
just recommend that. And I'm sure he thinks I'm a gunslinger, but they love it. We have enough equity in buildings. We have several lines of credit on several buildings with good equity. I mean, our PFS looks pretty decent. So I mean, rates, interest rates are about all I think about. I mean, and when we're getting ready to buy something, that Excel spreadsheet we open while on the couch is, what are current interest rates and what our carry, what's our payment going to be, and reverse engineering it.
Yep.
I mean, if I'm going to buy something and deploy capital and lock it up for a couple of years, I want to know that my cash flow from it is at least going to pay that down.
Yeah, no, that's super important.
So yeah, financing is interesting.
What's ahead? Like what's kind of on your radar is kind of where you want to head with your, portfolio, with your strategy. I know you're kind of balancing your passion for being in the business, but with also, not being speculative or risky. So what was kind of your vision for the future?
Yeah, it's interesting. We bought 2 properties in Vancouver. I mean, and the permitting process, the construction was great. The mayor of Vancouver came to our grand opening after we remodeled the Lucky Loan. I mean, so I really liked that. I mean, the tax situation in Portland, like you and I were talking about before the show, like your producer and makeup person, all of us were all talking about that. Tax situation, our CPA is like, you can't die in Oregon with all these properties because the inheritance tax is, I mean, what is it, like 12, 14%? I mean, it's incredible.
And it starts after $1 million. So it's a threshold.
And $1 million is ridiculous, not inflation adjusted. And you learn about stuff like that. You're like, so at some point in the next 15 years, probably a decade from now, maybe earlier, we'll probably 1031 some properties into a more tax-friendly state. Arizona, Phoenix, Texas, Scottsdale, Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to.
Yeah.
We'll keep the core here, and then we'll just 1031 a few out to get under, a certain threshold. I tried to do a property in like Gresham once, and I didn't have the systems. I didn't like driving out there every other day. So we like being here. A lot of opportunities in downtown Portland. We were talking about the torsional,
Especially if you have time. If you have time to watch the ship turn
and wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we were talking about the price per foot, and if you're picking stuff up for $70 a foot and the cost of construction is $250, $300 a foot, and at some point, the debt service is the primary thing, I think about there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too, because we've got that great skyscraper comp, Big Pink, being sold at 20 cents on the dollar. And so, I mean, that's just got to ripple through the entire commercial community. And so there are some opportunities to buy. And, we've been looking outside of Multnomah County, but, at the right price, it doesn't, then you just, the deal makes sense and you got
it. Yeah. And it's tough. So, I mean, I only have so many bullets to fire. Sure. It's only so much capital. So, I mean, when an opportunity comes along, it's like, do I want to? Do I need to back out of Oregon a little bit, Portland? I mean, how many more am I going to buy?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you and I are the same. We have a real estate problem.
We have a real estate problem. Great. Well, I've just got a few kind of questions left here.
I think we need an electrician to look at these lights.
Yeah. So these lights are on timers, and I don't quite know. Well, they're motion activated. And so I don't know if they overheat or what the deal is, but.
So should we have our guests do this every couple of minutes?
I'm not sure. I got to look into that part for sure. But anyways, so we're moving to this part of the show here where we want to learn a little bit about Joe, right? So I've got a few questions just so that the audience can get to know you better and find out who you are. So, the first question I have here is, if you could have dinner with any U.S. president, dead or alive, who would it be, and why would you want to have dinner with that person?
Without a doubt, James Madison.
Yeah, they're right on the. Oh, you're ready to go.
My useless minor in college was American history with that focus. I mean, I listened to audiobooks and podcasts on the writing of the Constitution. One of my favorite books is the Constitutional Convention of 1787, notes by James Madison. I mean, it is every speech, every argument on the Constitution. Some people are like, the founding fathers said this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what? Yeah, that's what they settled on, but really what is this? Or, when you talk about the Second Amendment, James Madison wrote the Constitution. James Madison wrote the Bill of Rights. Some people are like, the founding fathers meant this for the Second Amendment. It's like, well, let's go write it. No, this isn't the Ten Commandments. It wasn't handed down by some deity. Yeah. A man, and that man was James Madison, wrote it. So let's find out what he had in mind when he wrote it.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to go back.
Stays on, yeah.
Madison, I mean, War of 1812, President, Constitution, Bill of Rights. I mean, the guy's one of the smartest people to ever be in the Oval Office. I would almost put him up there, ahead of Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson and Madison were dear friends and corresponded a lot. Reading just the letters they had is amazing too.
Yeah. Only imagine living during that time and just like, how volatile and unpredictable and just exciting in some ways. But then you've got obviously quality of life.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty like, boy. Yeah. Boy, it's like, I don't want to be back then. That's for sure. But I mean, it's just, they didn't know anything different. So
yeah, no kidding. Yeah. It was just great to have a bucket of fresh water at your, yeah. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very much. I know. Well, maybe you can tell us something that you're passionate about outside of, work, family, and real estate.
Yeah. I'm a nerd. I collect football cards. I have for a long time. We were just talking about that.
NFL football card. I guess there aren't really college. Are there college football?
There's a couple college. I don't. Yeah, there's one set, the 1894 Mayo Cup plug set from 1894. That's college. That's Yale, Harvard, and and Princeton. But yeah. Anyway, I collect football cards. I'm a nerd. But so I have a couple kids. I love walking my dogs with my daughter and trying to get my son to get out of bed early and come to work and learn how to do stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. And then, the last question I have is, if you had to choose whiskey or wine, what would it be?
Well, Nick, considering I've been in, your whiskey collection and vice versa, I think, and we were talking about whiskey prior to the show.
We were.
I think whiskey, but man, oh man, in moderation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get carried away with you.
I like them both, but I sure do like my good bourbons.
Good bourbons. Yeah. Nice. What about rye? How do you feel about those?
Not as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you like your rye. That, I've made you a couple Manhattans. Yeah. Yeah. What about you? I mean, I'm trying to think of your whiskey collection. It's mostly bourbon.
It's mostly bourbon. Yeah. I have a lot of bourbon. I have some rye, and then I kind of got some Irish and Scotch and stuff like that. But bourbon's definitely my go-to. That's definitely something that I prefer. But rye is nice to kind of break up the pattern a little bit. And I probably, just in general, probably have more wine than whiskey these days. I think you just go through phases, right? You just can only have so much, and then even then I've kind of scaled back. But I do enjoy the hunt and having something that's unique and rare, and especially having it with somebody who can appreciate it and kind of knows the story.
Like, do you sip a rye like you would a bourbon or a Scotch?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You get some good ones. Absolutely. And oftentimes, I mean, they have different flavor profiles for sure. But yeah, it's pretty much neat or on their rocks, 100%. Yeah.
What president would you have dinner with? I'm curious.
Wow. So, gosh, this has probably moved around a lot, over time for various reasons. I think I've held different presidents in different regards at different moments, and just, at different phases of my life, what was more important. But I think without a doubt, I mean, I would probably go, not to copy you, but I would be a toss-up between, James Madison, or Thomas Jefferson. And it's because George Washington's not really of interest to me. I mean, he was the first president of the United, States, but not necessarily the first president in America, because we actually had presidents that preceded that. But I think it's just the personalities, because who I'd want to actually have dinner with, if it wasn't a president, but in that era, was Ben Franklin, because I think that would be, somebody that would be incredibly
Talking
fascinating.
about wine and women.
Yeah,
Old Benjamin.
he definitely dabbled.
George Washington isn't as smart as people think he is. They hold him on a pedestal because he was number one.
Yeah,
But really, he surrounded himself with, Alexander Hamilton, Madison first, in his life,
yeah,
and then later on Hamilton. The Constitutional Convention, George Washington presided over that because he was tall and he showed up wearing his general's uniform. George Washington looked the part, uttered one sentence in 3.5 months, and that was in the second to the last day, to put in a vote on a very, lopsided topic. And I don't remember what it was.
sure.
But, stunning. He had the best seat in the house. He watched the entire thing unfold.
Yeah,
Said one day, 3.5 months. So, yeah, either he's incredibly confident or he was like, better to be thought the fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, but I would have definitely wanted to talk to either one of those guys. I mean, Thomas Jefferson was probably a little bit more of a drama queen than,
Yeah.
but, I think just knowing kind of what they were up against and the things that they thought through and the system that they put in place is pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
And people talk about well, they didn't know about, the internet and all this stuff. It's like, yes, but they knew about human behavior, and that's really what, they were trying to restrain is the conduct of people imposing their will.
That's why we have courts, is to interpret the law as things change.
Exactly. Or you can make an amendment, or that's actually, a mechanism for that. So
27 of them so far.
Indeed. Great. Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Nick, I learned a lot. I adore you so much. I come and know you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, your company. I love your shows. I'm one of the 3 people that watches it.
I appreciate that.
Julie and
yeah. Cool, man. Well, we're gonna sign off here and enjoy the day.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.